Hello, dear students. So, lesson 7 packing of beehive is going on. And in our last class, we have seen that three friends, Jerome, the narrator, Harris, and George, they were going on a trip. And the narrator, Jerome, asked his friends to leave the packing on him, and his friends they agreed with him and sat aside, but this irritated the narrator because his motive was not to do the things but to boss the job, to supervise the others. The most irritating thing for him was that when he is doing something and others are sitting idly, but anyhow he started packing and completed it also. He just packed and strapped the bag, but at the same time Harris asked him whether he is not going to pack the boots in. Then he had to open the bag and packed boots also, but as soon as he closed the bag, the idea occurred to him, his mind, horrible idea, that whether he had packed his toothbrush or not, his toothbrush was the thing which always troubles him. He forgets to pack it, and at the last moment, he has to run for his toothbrush. Let us see now. Of course, I had to turn every mortal thing out now, and of course, I could not find it. Every mortal thing mean every ordinary things to find his toothbrush, because toothbrush is a small thing. So to find it, he has to take out everything from the bag, and definitely he could not find his toothbrush. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created and when chaos reigned. Now he has to search each and everything. He has just put out all the things you can see in the picture, and a huge confusion, disorder was created there. Of course, I found George's and Harry's 18 times over, but I could not find my own. So definitely when he was searching, he found Harris and George's toothbrush almost 18 times, but he was not able, he couldn't find his own. Now I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. Now he has to put the things one by one. He shook them, he moved them, and then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. Now he found his toothbrush inside a boot, and he has repacked the bag once more. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. When the narrator he completed, he finished the packing. George asked whether the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't, and I slammed the bag shut and strapped it and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. It got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. Now, the narrator, when George asked him about the soap, he said, I don't care whether the soap was in or not, and he got angry, he got irritated, and banged the bag loudly, heavily, and shut and strapped it. But after that, he found that he had also packed his spectacles in it, and he had to reopen his this bag, and finally he just closed that bag at 10:05 p.m. And then there remained the hampers to do. Now only hampers were to do. Hampers, it's a large basket for carrying food. Now that basket was to prepare. Harris said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time, and thought that he and George had better to do the rest, and I agreed and sat down and they had a go. Now Harry said that they are having less than 12 hours time to start their journey. So George and Harris will pack the hampers. And the narrator also agreed and sat down and they started packing. Now, George and Harris started packing the hampers. They began in a light-hearted spirit. Light-hearted spirit means happily, evidently intending to show me how to do it. Definitely, they wanted to show, they were happy when they started packing. They wanted to prove, they wanted to show the narrator that how to do this. I made no comment, I only waited. Now, the narrator is saying he didn't say anything, but he waited. With the exception of George, Harris is the worst packer in this world. It means, according to the narrator, Harris and George, they both were worst packer in the world, very bad packer. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc., and felt that the things would become exciting. So, and the narrator is saying that he looked towards the piles, heaps of plates, cups and kettles, bottles, jars, pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, and he was thinking inside himself that the things that the packing he would see is going to be very much exciting now. It did, and it was really exciting. They started with the breaking of a cup. Now, George and Harris, when they started packing, first of all, they broke a cup. That was the first thing they did, and this was the first thing they were started or they were doing. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. So, doing this means now it was the starting to see what they are going to do, and the things will be really interesting. The narrator thought that it would be very, very interesting to see what they are going to do. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on the top of a tomato and squashed it. And they had to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. Now, Harris packed the strawberry jam on the top of a tomato. He kept that jam on a tomato, and the tomato it squashed, it was crushed, and they had to pick out the tomato with the help of a teaspoon. And then it was George's turn, and he trod on the butter. I didn't say anything, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them. Now it was George's turn, and he trod on the butter. Trod means walked, he moved, he put his foot on the butter, and I didn't say anything. The narrator, he didn't say anything, but he came over and sat on the edge of the table, you can see in the picture, and watched them and started watching or started seeing or enjoying what is going to be happen now. That's all for today.